Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is the live game review to Everton's 2-1 victory over Huddersfield Town in the Carabao Cup second round on Tuesday night. Apologies that we didn't sit down and do the review yesterday. As you can see, we'll address the massive elephant in the room in the first minutes of the stream. I have got a little bit of a skin infection, impetigo, on my face. So yesterday it come through yesterday morning, so I had to run around all day trying to get the doctor to send cream over because it is infectious, so you've got to get antibiotic cream in order to sort it out. Usually within 48 hours of using the cream, everything is all good, but that is why I've got a massive blotch of white stuff on my face. No other reason, no buttered toast, no shaving foam. It is unfortunately a skin infection, so that is why we didn't do the stream yesterday either. I was running around trying to sort this out, and as you can see, I'm in the process of getting it sorted. Big win for Everton on Tuesday night, of course. Not the prettiest game of football, certainly not the best performance by any stretch of the imagination, but in these types of games, in these types of situations, you know, when you make so many changes to the team, 9 changes Rafa Benitez made to the starting 11 that played against Leeds at the weekend, only Michael Keane and Alex Iwobi keeping their places. At the end of the day, it's just about going out and getting the win, isn't it? It's just about making sure that you're in the hat for the next round. Obviously, we found out last night that Everton will play QPR away from home in the third round of the Carabao Cup. We've done a little reaction video on the channel. It was only about 1 minute and 45 seconds long, so if you haven't checked that out, please do so after this live stream. But as I said, you know, again, in games like Tuesday night against Huddersfield, it is simply all about just getting your name in the hat and ensuring you're through to the next round. Yes, it wasn't the greatest performance. Yes, at times it was very difficult to watch, especially when we went down to 10 men, obviously, which we'll talk about later on in the stream. But we're in the hat, we got through, we're in the hat for the next round, and that's all that matters. It was a good opportunity to see, you know, a couple of players that we haven't seen an awful lot of recently, the likes of Jared Branthwaite, Niles Nkunku, obviously we haven't seen very much at all, even throughout the pre-season we didn't see much of as well. Jean-Philippe Gbamin starting his first Everton game for over 470 days, which was amazing to see as well, and in the grand scheme of things, he done alright. You know, he played well. Maybe I was a little bit harsh on the instant match reaction and the play ratings on Jean-Philippe Gbamin, but, you know, considering it was his first game, you know, first competitive game starting for over 470 days, you know, he held himself well. Yes, he made a couple of mistakes here and there in terms of losing the ball in possession and getting caught with the ball at his feet, but for the majority of the game, he held himself really well, and he battled and he worked hard. And again, most importantly, he got 90 minutes in the tank. He got an all-important 90 minutes in the tank, and he come away from the game injury-free as well, which is the most important thing. That's all that matters with regards to Jean-Philippe Gbamin. You know, it's a little bit harsh of me to sit here and nitpick his performance and talk about the couple of times that he got caught with the ball, because literally all that matters is that he got 90 minutes in his tank, and that, you know, he's obviously he's come out of the game with no problems, no injuries, and hopefully he'll be part of the squad on Saturday to face Brighton. But yeah, like I said before, Rafa Benitez making 9 changes to the Everton side on Tuesday evening ahead of what was a difficult game against Huddersfield. It was always going to be a difficult game, currently sitting 10th in the Championship. Couple of wins, couple of draws, a good start to the season, to be fair, a really good start to the season, barring one heavy defeat to Marco Silva's Fulham side. Huddersfield have done really well, picked themselves up, like I said, a couple of wins, couple of draws as well. So it was always going to be a difficult game. They were always going to come at us. They were always going to make it physical. Obviously, it was in front of their home crowd as well, which again would be one of the first times since obviously fans have returned to stadiums. So for Rafa Benitez to make so many changes and put his faith and trust into so many players that haven't had a lot of game time recently, it was always going to be a risk, and the risk was that the lack of game time, the lack of maybe fitness from those Everton players, you know, we're going to struggle to keep up with the Huddersfield side, who, you know, again have played, you know, have been playing competitive football for the last 3, 4, 5 weeks or so. So again, we knew this was going to be a difficult one. Like I said, 9 changes to the team. Asmir Begovic coming in for Jordan Pickford. Jordan Pickford not even in the matchday squad. New signing Andy Lonergan was the substitute goalkeeper. Only one substitute goalkeeper on the bench. Obviously, we found out earlier on in the day that João Virginia has completed his loan move to Sporting. So Andy Lonergan makes the bench, and Asmir Begovic is the goalkeeper. Right back, we had John Joe Kenny. We had a sort of 5 at the back formation, 3 at the back formation, whatever you want to call it. Left back, Niles Nkunku. Of course, brilliant to see Niles Nkunku Nkunku in there. Obviously, we didn't see a lot of him last season, and there was a lot of calls for him to start. Certainly when Luca Dean picked up an injury and when we were struggling to find cover at left back, and Carlo Ancelotti just never ever put his faith in him. Obviously, we saw him in the early rounds of the Carabao Cup, so it was really nice to see Niels Nkunku again and show what he's capable of. And there was a couple of times that he broke forward and he looked really, really threatening. Defensively, I still think there's improvements to be made, but of course there is. He's a young teenage lad who's breaking through into a Premier League side and trying to get as much game time as possible. So of course there's going to be improvements to be made. John Joe Kenny at right back, like I said. Niels Nkunku at left back. We had a back three of Mason Holgate, Michael Keane and Jared Branthwaite. As I said before, Michael Keane, one of the only two players who kept his place from the Leeds game. We move in to the centre of midfield. We had Tom Davies and Jean-Philippe Gbamin in there. Really, really good to see Tom Davies and Jean-Philippe Gbamin, of course. Again, fantastic to see Jean-Philippe Gbamin back for the first time in over 700 days, or the first competitive start in over 700 days. Great to see Tom in there as well, getting a start. Thoroughly deserved it, of course. Again, really important player last season for me. Tom gets a lot of stick typically, and there's a lot of Evertonians that still seem to not think that he's good enough. But for me, last season, Tom Davies at times was one of our most important players, and at times our best player as well. So really nice to see Tom get a start. Alex Iwobi, of course, the only other player that kept his place from the draw at Ellen Road on the weekend. And then we had a front three. It was with Iwobi, wasn't it? But Andros Townsend coming back in the team, and Moise Keane getting a start as well. And I actually thought Everton started the game really brightly. To be honest with you, it was difficult to see whether we were going with a defensive five at the back or more of an attacking five at the back. I think when you've got a left back like Niels Nkunku in the team, it's beneficial to use him as a wing back rather than a sort of regular defensive left back, because again, like I said, going forward, the lad is absolutely electric and he can cause issues to a lot of sides. I even think he'd cause issues to a lot of Premier League sides, to be honest with you. He did the times on Tuesday getting down that wing. There was a couple of times when he dropped the shoulder and the Huddersfield midfield, it's a bit of a tongue twister, isn't it? Just simply couldn't cope with him. Obviously, he would have got the assist for Moise Keane's goal had the linesman had a pair of eyes, which would have been an absolutely brilliant assist as well. But again, like I said, defensively, there's still room to improve. So you sort of had a three at the back with two wing backs, but Niels Nkunku was getting forward. John Joe Kenny wasn't as much. Again, he's not really an attacking right back, is he? And I think that's part and parcel of the reasons to why Everton need a new right back. Again, I've said it before and I'll say it again. For me, John Joe Kenny isn't good enough, but taking away his defensive his defensive difficulties that, I'm sure he can fix over time and over the next few years. He still is very young. I just don't think he's got that attacking threat that we need in a right back. You look at young Seamus Coleman when he was John Joe Kenny's age, and yes, he was making defensive mistakes, and yes, he was, there was certainly room to improve in the defensive areas, but in regards to getting forward, you couldn't have a bad word to say about Seamus Coleman. He was getting forward, constantly throwing balls into the box, scoring goals. He was absolutely electric in his earlier days at Everton. John Joe Kenny just doesn't seem to do that. He doesn't seem to want to get forward. He doesn't really put the ball into the box an awful lot. He's not great at doing it anyway. He doesn't really get involved in the goals either. So, again, like I said, you sort of had one full back who was bursting forward and acting like a wing back, and one who was just sort of being a little bit more reserved. And yeah, like I said, I think Everton started well. We were controlling the ball. You could tell we were the Premier League side, and that was really good sign, because again, this wasn't an Everton team with Dominic Calvert-Lewin in it. This wasn't an Everton team with Richarlison in it. This wasn't an Everton team with Damari Gray in it to start with. This was an Everton side of players. The likes of Moise Keane, who again, obviously he hadn't started either of the previous Premier League games. I know he'd been in isolation for a period of it as well. But again, a lot of speculation regarding Moise Keane's future, whether he'll stay, whether he'll go. This was an Everton side with, again, young Jared Branthwaite in it, who was impressed massively towards the back end of the 2019-20 season. Then obviously went on loan last year, got a big injury towards the end of the season. So again, probably still trying to fully recover from that injury. Niels Nkunku is obviously a young prospect coming through. Obviously John Joe Kenny as well. So it was very much Everton's B-side, if you like, Everton's reserve side, and again, the later the game went on, the more and more scary the drop-off in quality between Everton's first team and second team become. But we started well, we were keeping the ball, we were getting forward. Defensively, we didn't really have anything to deal with, but there was early signs from Huddersfield as to show that they can get forward and they can put pressure on us, and Everton, in regards to keeping hold of the ball, I thought that was the first thing you looked at and you thought, right, we're struggling a little bit here. It was to keep hold of possession. Huddersfield turned it on fairly quickly in the game with their high press. They come at Everton really fast, they pressed us high, and they forced us into making mistakes. And what we would have liked to have seen as Evertonians was an Everton team that just kept the ball, kept it calm, moved it forward, again, used our quality, used our Premier League experience to move the ball around Huddersfield and make them pay for their the expansive style. But we didn't. There was a lot of panic, there was a lot of frustration, there was a lot of just kicking the ball out, giving the ball away, and not really knowing how to deal with a team that press you so high up the pitch. And again, like I said, there was a couple of fearful moments in the first 20-25 minutes that you're looking thinking, do you know what? We're maybe struggling a little bit to deal with this Huddersfield side. We're maybe struggling a little bit to deal with the press, to deal with the energy that this Huddersfield team is bringing. Obviously, Everton got the breakthrough quite early on, and again, this was what we would have expected, really, with us coming up against the side that exerts so much going forward and pressing so much. There was always that possibility that Everton would hit them on the counter-attack and make them pay for that, and the hope would have been that we could have done that 3, 4, 5 times in the opening 25 minutes and converted 3, 4, 5 goals and been absolutely well away within the first half of the game, so we didn't have anything to worry about. But obviously, in typical Everton fashion, not making the most of situations, etc. But anyway, obviously the first goal is scored by Everton, and a really, really good goal as well. Tom Davies picks the ball up, drives through the midfield, absolutely brilliant run by Tom. As I said in the player ratings on Tuesday, I think Tom had a mixed game, to be honest with you. Going forward, I think he looked really, really exciting at times. He was picking the ball up, he was moving, he looked really, really good. Defensively, I think there was a couple of times that he got caught out. I think there was a couple of times where he wasn't really providing defensive cover for the midfield, which for the back line, which was, again, a little bit worrying, because you look at it and think, if it was a Premier League game, if we were in a Premier League scenario, you would have wanted more from Tom Davies and John-Philip Cabaman as well. Again, cutting John-Philip Cabaman a little bit of stick because he's been out for so long. But you would have wanted more defensive cover from the midfield. There was a couple of times where Huddersfield just found it far too easy to move the ball around on the edge of our box and get shots away. And yes, okay, they didn't convert them because, again, I think the lack of quality showed, but they got into areas that if you allowed a Premier League side to get in, if you allowed Brighton to get in, for example, on the weekend, we could be in a bad situation come half time. So I would have wanted more from the likes of Tom defensively, but going forward, again, he was really good in spells, and this was one of them. Drove the ball forward magnificently, slid in Alex Iwobi, and Alex Iwobi finishes it well. And I think Alex Iwobi, to be fair, I think he had a good game on Tuesday. I really, really do. I think when you're looking at man of the matches, there wasn't the greatest choice there wasn't the greatest sort of lineup to choose from, because again, there wasn't many standout players, but I thought Alex Iwobi took his goal really, really well. Obviously he slid it into the back of the net brilliantly, and I thought overall in the game he was lively, he was getting forward, he was trying to create chances, and he was again, every sort of attack that we had within that game, Alex Iwobi was a part of. Everton have scored 5 goals now. No, more than that. I think what have we scored? 7 goals in all competitions. 3 against Southampton, 2 against Leeds, and then obviously 2 on Tuesday. So 7 goals in all competitions, and I think Alex Iwobi has been involved in 4 of them, whether that be scoring, whether that be, obviously he got the assist for the Corey's goal against Southampton. I think he got a pre-assist on the weekend for one of the goals against Leeds as well. So again, Alex Iwobi has started the season really, really well. And he has done a couple of times since joining Everton. There's been a couple of seasons where he started really, really lively and then massively faded out throughout the course of the season and gone from being involved in the goals and putting in impressive performances to just not really doing anything whatsoever. So hopefully Alex Iwobi this season can keep up that form, because again, like I said, he started the season really, really well, and yet, like I said, he took the game well. Again, good ball in by Tom Davis, and Alex Iwobi slots the finish away, and Everton are 1-0 up, and you're sort of thinking, right, okay, this high press, this high energy from Huddersfield has come back to bite them on the bottom, really, in this situation. Let's hope that we can go and do it again. Let's hope we can hit them on the counter-attack again, and go and, get a second, get a third before half-time, and really sort of put this game to bed, put this game beyond Huddersfield, because ideally what we would have wanted, and this is never the case with Everton, by the way, we support Everton Football Club. Why do we ever think that the words that are about to come out of my mouth is ever the case with Everton? But what we would have ideally wanted on Tuesday was for us to have sat there with a beer open, or maybe a gin, or maybe a cup of tea, whatever your choice of beverage is, feet up, and watched Everton cruise through into a comfortable victory in the second round of the Carabao Cup, and see us move into the third round with no issues whatsoever. Again, and that's no disrespect to Huddersfield, but ideally that's what we all wanted as Evertonians, didn't we? We've come off quite a stressful game against Leeds. We've got a difficult game at the weekend against Brighton. All as we would have wanted was feet up a little bit, watch the Blues, go out, put an impressive performance in, maybe win 2-3, 4-0, and then come away with it. No issues whatsoever, and we're sitting here today saying, brilliant win, brilliant performance, we were great the other day. It's never the case with Everton, is it? It never ever is the case with Everton. I've just noticed in the top left-hand corner of this team, by the way, let me know if the camera's sort of jittering a little bit. I don't know whether it's just me when I'm catching it, but I don't know whether the video or the camera's sort of buffering a little bit or lagging a little bit. Let us know in the live comments if it is. If it isn't, just say, no, it's absolutely fine, mate. But if it is, let us know, because it might just be me. If you're enjoying, by the way, please do hit that like button. It only takes a second. Don't forget to subscribe. If you could share the team as well, I appreciate it's very early, but if you could share the team, it would mean a great deal to me. We will be back later today, by the way. We're going to be talking transfers. We're going to be talking Richarlison, and his agents come out and said something that I think is worth talking about. We're going to be talking various other players, Nathan Patterson of Rangers, and a couple of other players that Everton have been heavily linked with. So we'll be doing that live stream later, so don't forget to join us mid-afternoon for that one. But anyway, back onto the game. Like I said, it's never like that with Everton, is it? It never ever is like that. We never sit there and just go, yeah, feet up, be an easy afternoon is, and it actually is an easy afternoon. It's typically difficult, and as it was on Tuesday. So we get the goal, we go 1-0 up, and you're thinking, right, okay, good start. We go out and get the second now, maybe the third before half-time. Huddersfield, I think, really then sort of start to think, right, you know what, this maybe is a little bit out of our reach. And Everton then run away with it. Again, like I said, after we scored, there was a period where we were holding the ball well. We were moving the ball forward. There was a couple of chances even before we got the first goal. Does me head in that when I think of chances before the goal, because now I'm not going in chronological order, but there was a couple of chances before the first goal. Moise Keane had, one where, again, he nicked the ball in the midfield and he got himself into a good area on the edge of the box. He took a shot and it just went wide. One where, Alex Iwobi burst through the middle, played the ball out wide to Niles Nkunku, who played the ball in, and again, Moise Keane got on the end of it, and the keeper made a really good save, to be honest with you. And I actually think Moise Keane started the game really well. I do. I think in the first half, I don't think many people could have had a bad word to say about Moise Keane, to be honest with you. I think he started the game lively, he looked interested. I've seen a couple of comments after the game on our channel and on social media and stuff, saying another game where Moise Keane didn't look interested. Look, I was the first to sit down on Saturday evening and on Monday and talk about Moise Keane against Leeds and say that when he come on, he just didn't look interested whatsoever. He didn't look like he wanted to change the game. He didn't look like he wanted to affect the game. I was the first person to sit down and say that, and maybe that was slightly harsh because he only come on with a couple of minutes to go. And again, I understand the frustration from him to be frustrated at only getting a couple of minutes on the pitch to try and change the game. I get it. But he just didn't look that interested on Saturday. He wasn't really running around. He wasn't really getting involved. He wasn't, again, for the 4 minutes that he was on the pitch, whatever it was, there was more times that he was just stood still watching than there was actually going for the ball and trying to actively go out and win the game. However, on Tuesday, I don't think you can say that, personally. I don't think you can say that. I think he looked really, really lively. He was smiling, he seemed happy, he was picking the ball up, he was holding the ball up really well, passing it off really well as well. Again, moving forward, trying to create chances. He had a couple of shots, as I've just mentioned, before the first goal. One which, again, just went wide, and one which was unlucky, to be fair. The goalkeeper makes a really good save. Actually, if you watch it on the replay, it's a much better save than what I think you would originally think. But Again, he looked lively, Moise Kean. He was getting involved, he was getting forward, he was creating chances, and you could see he was interested, you could see he wanted to score. You could see, obviously, with the celebration for Alex Iwobi's goal, he was straight over there, he was dancing, he was enjoying himself. There was the save that the goalkeeper made just before Alex Iwobi's goal from Moise Kean. You can see he gives him a little smile afterwards, Moise Kean, and you can almost see, right, he's in the mood here. He wants to go out and get a goal, and I was very impressed with him in that first half. I was very, very impressed with him. I thought he was getting about the pitch, I thought he was holding the ball up well, and I thought he was doing a good job. Again, look, he hadn't scored a hat-trick, of course, and maybe we come into these types of games and we think, right, this is Moise Kean's opportunity to go out and score 2 or 3, and we maybe overlook the level of the opposition and think we're just playing against, I don't know, Southampton won 8-0 last night, didn't they? And you think we'd be playing against the League 2, League 1 opposition, and Moise would be able to go out and do that. We weren't. Let's be honest, and again, full respect to Huddersfield, we were playing against a very difficult Championship side, the Championship side who have started the season very well and could very well be in the Premier League next year, and it would be a very different discussion, wouldn't it? If Huddersfield were a Premier League side, which they were 2-3 years ago, we wouldn't be sitting here going, yeah, Moise Kean's going to score an hat-trick today. We'd be sitting here going, difficult game, this Premier League game, Premier League tie. So I actually think he started the half really, really well, to be honest with you. I do, and I was impressed with him. Obviously we'll talk about the disallowed goal in a moment, but you could see at this point that Huddersfield were getting forward again. Like I said, they were threatening in the opening sort of 10 or 15 minutes, but Everton were dealing with it well. But you could see that there was a couple of times we were losing the ball sloppily in midfield, and that lack of game time from the players that were on the pitch, and that lack of any sort of match fitness from the players that were on the pitch was really, really starting to show at this point. And you could see that Huddersfield had the team out there that had played together for the last couple of weeks or so or whatever, maybe a couple of changes here and there, but a majority of the players that had played competitive Championship football for the opening few weeks of the season. And Everton had a side of players that hadn't played a lot of football whatsoever, individually or as a team. Again, like I said, the midfield, John Philip Gbamin and Tom Davies, again, look, this is all, by the way, clouded under, we're doing a review, so we've got to talk about the game, we've got to review the game, but this is all clouded under the fact that Everton won the game of football at the end of the day, and that's all that matters. All that matters is that we won the game of football and that we're through into the hat for the next round. That is all that matters. However, like I said, there was a couple of times that Huddersfield got forward, certainly before they got the equaliser, that really, really sort of seemed to threaten us a little bit, and should have acted like a bit of a wake-up call for me, for Everton, and maybe it didn't act as a wake-up call, but it should have, because, again, like I said, they were threatening, and they were, and like, there was a couple of times when, like I said before, they manoeuvred the ball onto the edge of the box, and they were getting shots away. There was one where Asmir Begovic was forced into making a save, and it's a good save, but he immediately sort of bats it right back into the feet of the attacker, and if the attacker was a little bit more composed, maybe had a little bit more quality, he'd have rifled it into the back of the net, but he doesn't. He panics, and he ends up hitting it over. So there was signs that Huddersfield were able to get through, and I think from a Huddersfield point of view, they would have been looking at that half very, very positively. Obviously, before they got the equaliser, when they got the equaliser, they'd have been looking at it positively anyway. But before they got the equaliser, they'd have been thinking, do you know what, we can exploit this Everton team. Again, for a back line that consisted of 2 players that have played Premier League football this season and have played Premier League football, I think both featured in both games. Certainly Michael Keane, and featured in Premier League games for the last 3-4 seasons at Everton. We didn't look like we could cope with it. Jared Branthwaite, again, cut him a little bit of slack. He's come off the back of a really tough injury towards the end of last season, and it was his first competitive game back at Everton. He's still a very young lad. He's still got a lot to learn. Same with Niles Nkunku, still a young lad, lot to learn. We know, what you get with John Joe Kenny. Again, he's a decent right back. For me, he's not good enough to play for Everton. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second if you're new. Don't forget to subscribe. We will get in the comments in a moment, by the way. But you look at Michael Keane and Mason Holgate, and you think, we need better. We need better. Mason was wearing the armband the other day, and there was a number of times throughout the game. Don't get me wrong, I thought he was solid. I thought he was okay. I thought he'd done a decent job. There wasn't anything drastic that went wrong other than the goal, which we'll talk about in a moment. But you want better from them. Those are games that Mason and Michael Keane should be dominating. They should be going through without an issue. It should be a breeze for those 2 players. These are players that could very well start for Everton in a Merseyside derby this year, or against Chelsea, or against Arsenal, or against Tottenham, or against City, or against Man United, Leicester. These are players that could start against the best teams in the country, some of the best teams in world football. They should have been going through this game like an absolute breeze, and that's no disrespect to Huddersfield, but Mason Allgate and Michael Keane should have found this one comfortable, and they didn't. And that is the most worrying thing for me to take out of this performance, is that two Premier League level centre-halves who will more than likely feature a lot of times for Everton in the Premier League this season struggle to deal with a good Championship side. Because that's what Huddersfield are, let's have it right, they're a good Championship side, and you would have expected. Put it this way, Yerry Mina's on the pitch, Huddersfield don't score their first goal. Our biggest problem on Tuesday, our biggest worry, or certainly from my point of view anyway, I don't know if anybody else agrees with this, but from my point of view, the thing that caused Everton the most issues was balls into the box. It was crosses, it was balls coming in that we just couldn't seem to deal with. Obviously they scored from a corner, which we'll talk about in a second. They had another corner that ended up going into the back of the net, which was disallowed for offside. And they had 2-3 chances where crosses were coming in the box, and we just couldn't deal with it whatsoever. Again, you've got two Premier League level centre-halves there in the box. Why can't we deal with simple crosses coming into the box? It's scary. It really, really is scary, because like I said, it's that drop-off in quality. Because I am confident in saying, and I know you could say, Cam, you can't say that, nobody can say that, categorically, but I am confident in saying that if Yerry Mina's on that pitch against Huddersfield, we don't concede either of those two goals. Certainly not the goal that obviously ultimately gets given, because Yerry Mina just deals with it. You watch the replay, obviously the corner comes in. Like I said, at this point, Everton had obviously we'll talk about Moise Keane's goal first, because it come before it. Like I said, we were being threatened. There was a couple of times when you were thinking, actually, do you know what? This is a bit easy for Huddersfield to move the ball around here. This is a bit easy for Huddersfield to get into the good areas, outside the box. But we broke again. Nazim Kunku this time, absolutely electric run from left back position, cuts into the centre of the midfield, plays an excellent ball, takes on one or two players firstly, but then plays an excellent ball into Moise Keane. Moise Keane is about, and I'm going to go out on a limb here, about 353 miles onside. Picks the ball up brilliantly and rifles it beyond the keeper, and at that point it's 2-0. Huddersfield have had a couple of chances. They've sort of, again, they've worried us a little bit, but it's 2-0 now in the first 35-40 minutes of the game. It's sort of out of reach for them. They've got a big task on their hands. Linesman's flag goes up, and originally, obviously, before you see a replay, before you see anything, you think, okay, must have just strayed offside, fair enough. You then see a replay, and that might be one of, I don't know whether it's but it certainly is one of the worst officiating decisions I've ever seen in professional football in my 22 years of watching professional football. And I'm not just saying that because it's gone against Everton. I'm saying it because he's not online with the player. It's not like if it went to VAR, they could find some way of doing the silly lines and saying, right, he's offside. He is about 222 miles onside. He's about from my house to Huddersfield's ground onside. And the linesman somehow has given it. Now, obviously, there's no VAR in the early rounds of the Carabao Cup, so there's no way of checking whether it's onside or not. And the linesman's decision is the linesman's decision, and it gets flagged off. But I honestly think Moise Keane will look back at that goal, after the game, and probably certainly now he's been sent off, and think, how wasn't that given? How wasn't that given? It was a dreadful decision. It was nothing more, nothing less. It was an absolutely dreadful decision by the linesman. He did, I think, even it up in the second half by disallowing Huddersfield's second goal. Maybe the goalkeeper was being impeded by one of the attackers. I think it's harsh personally, and that's coming from an Everton standpoint. I think it's harsh, but maybe he was. AK Richard says he was just onside, let's be honest. No, obviously I'm exaggerating with the 350 miles. Obviously I'm exaggerating, but he was clearly onside for me. Clearly onside. You could tell by an eye's view that he was clearly onside. Again, like I said, Moise had a really, really good first half. A really good first half, and it would have been nice for him to have... to be able to mark that first half with a goal. It really will, because it was a great finish. It was an absolutely great finish. AK Rich says, by the way, let's recognise Keane shot with his left foot in the top right hand corner. It was an excellent finish. Rifled it with his left foot onto the into the top left hand corner. It was an absolutely magnificent finish. And you could see by his face just before he saw the offside flag, you know, he could have done with that, Moise Keane. He could have done with that goal, because I think if he scored that goal, we're all sitting here at half time going, Moise Keane's had a really good half there. He's got himself about, he's worked hard, you know, he's had a couple of chances early on, but he's kept going, he's persisted, and he scored an absolute beauty of a goal. But it gets disallowed, unfortunately, and I think maybe that was the turning point for Moise Keane in the game. I think from that point on, you know, again, he lost his head a little bit, didn't he? And obviously we saw the red card in the second half. But like I said, Everton should be 2-0 up. No doubt in my mind, Everton should be 2-0 up. It's a clear onside that gets disallowed by, once again, a show as to why the referees and the officials in this country are the worst officials in world football by a stretch, by a long stretch. Anyway, it gets disallowed, and you're sort of thinking, right, okay, bad decision, go again. Just don't concede. Just don't concede. If anything, get it in half time, 1-0, you know, recoup. You look at the game again and go out and get the second and the third in the second half and kill the game off. Obviously, like I said, in typical Everton fashion, we don't. Huddersfield, again, sort of getting forward, creating chances, finding it far too easy to get to the edge of the box, far too easy to play the ball around our midfield. Everton at this point are really looking like they're struggling fitness-wise. They're really looking like they can't keep up with Huddersfield. And again, like I said, we're looking like a team of players who haven't played much football this season against a side that have played, together, not a lot of football, but obviously, 4, 5, 6 games of football. Corner, Huddersfield get a corner. And you're hoping, I was hoping with every sort of bone in my body, every fibre in my body, that Michael Keane had just head this one away, and we'd all be sitting there going, brilliant Michael Keane, absolutely brilliant header, really well defended, get in mate, happy days. I was hoping that we could go through a 90-minute game without having to criticise Michael Keane and talk about a Michael Keane mistake, but we can't. Ball comes in, Mason gets caught underneath it, but I don't necessarily think it's Mason's fault, and Michael Keane just effectively stands and watches the fella jump up and nod it into the back of the net. In fact, he actually does go to attack the defender, but by the time he's done it, the lad's already in the air and the ball's already, come off his head and gone into the back of the net. Really poor defending again, and I'm getting to the point now where I just think Michael Keane needs taken out of this team now. Now, obviously, the hope is that for Saturday, Ben Godfrey's back. We know he travelled with the Everton squad on Tuesday, so he was a part of the travelling side. He didn't feature. He wasn't on the bench, but he travelled with the squad, so he is out of isolation now. So the hope is that he'll have had enough training. He'll have had enough time to prepare ahead of the game against Brighton, and he'll be able to obviously to go straight in next to Yerry Mina, of course. Because I just think that Michael Keane needs time off the team now. That's 3 games and 3 mistakes, and not mistakes that you look at and think, okay, it's not too bad of a mistake. Mistakes that you would expect, any defender, certainly Premier League level defender, to not make. Again, the Southampton one is really poor. The one against Leeds is again really poor, and that one on Tuesday, just follow your man. You've clearly seen him free, unmarked whatsoever. I'm not asked about. I don't know whether Everton zonal mark or whether Everton don't zonal mark anymore. But I'm not really asked about zonal marking, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. Bollocks to zonal marking. You've seen a 6'3", 6'4" player in the box, completely unmarked, and you're looking at the ball going towards his head. Just get forward, get on him, mark him, clear the ball. Yeah, that's what Yerry Mina had done. He'd have gone, bollocks to zonal mark him. That fella there is a massive threat, and I'm going to go and mark him and make sure that, this corner doesn't end up in a goal. And, Michael Keane doesn't. Obviously, the ball gets headed in, it's 1-1, and all of a sudden we go into half-time and we've been pinned back, and you're sort of thinking, another mistake, another defensive error. We're looking a little bit tired. Huddersfield are looking like the team with a lot more energy. If anybody looked like they were going to score a second after, obviously Keane was disallowed, or again, console the game, it was Huddersfield. So, a little bit worrying at that point. Anyway, let's get into the live comments before we go into talking about these second half. If you're enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. It only takes a second if you're new. Don't forget to subscribe. Stephen Hartley says, yes, Cam the man. Yes, my mate. Basic 6 says, morning, mate. Hope you're doing well. Kieran the goat, the rant. Kieran goat, the rant. Kieran rants, the goat says, hi, mate. Stephen says, tough game, QPR away, bro. It is. But again, an interesting game, a tough championship tie again. Could have got an easy game, but could have got a much more difficult game. C-Play says, Cam, whereabouts is the Everton shop in Liverpool? I've been before, but I was 7 last time I was there 10 years ago. Lol, going to the Burnley game, though, so excited, but I haven't stopped watching the games. There's two, mate. There's one in Liverpool City Centre, in Liverpool 1 shopping centre. If you get into the Liverpool City Centre, I don't know if you're coming on the train to Lamstead or you're driving, but if you go to Liverpool City Centre and then ask anybody to guide you to Liverpool 1, you'll be guided there. The Everton shop is on the 2nd floor, restaurants are on the top floor with the cinema, Everton shop's on the 2nd floor with other shops, the Apple shop, and then there's other shops on the ground floor as well. The Everton one is directly outside the ground. You won't miss it, mate. Opposite the Dixie Dean statue. You won't be able to miss it. Jay says, cut yourself shaving, Cam. No, as I said, I addressed the massive elephant in the room at the start of the team. I've got a skin infection. So what you can see on my face is cream, not shaving cream, but antibiotic cream to deal with the skin infection. So you'll just have to put up with it. If you want the videos, if you want the content, just have to put up with it. Hopefully, by the next 3-4 days, it won't be infectious anymore and it'll just look like a nasty scab for a week or so. Basic says skin infection. Yeah, Sequel says, I can't read that. C-Play says, what is your guys' favourite Everton match you've watched with fans there? Mine is the 3-3 draw with the Reds in Rom's final season. Was a very good game apart from the last kick of the game. C-Play says, but without fans it would be the game. The game at Anfield and the 3-3 draw against Manchester United. Without fans, recently it's got to be the it's the win at Anfield, isn't it? Difficult one, that. Difficult one. There's been a lot of amazing games of football at Goodison Park over the years. A couple that just come to my mind straight away is the 4-0 against Manchester City, Tom Davies game, the Tom Davies goal and Adam Ola-Luckman goal. That was a great game. One that really sticks in my mind is the Arsenal win in the 2013-14 season, the season we finished 5th, when it was sort of Everton going head to head with Arsenal for Champions League. We had 6-7 games to go, something like that. We had Arsenal at Goodison Park and we beat them, and that was the moment we all thought, right, Champions League's in our hand. We then went on and lost to Palace, I think, and ended up throwing it, but that Arsenal win was amazing. Everton Blues is, why on earth have we got an ex-Red goalkeeper? Because he's experienced, isn't he? And he probably will never play for Everton. Daniel says, hope we get at least one more player. Now, well, Rafa Benitez did say, didn't he, in his post-game interview, he said about, again, this week going out and strengthening the squad and bringing in a couple of new faces. So, interesting that he should mention that. Typically managers don't really mention that. They just wait and see what happens. But he specifically said, the hope is that we'll go out in the next week or so and bring in a couple of new faces. So let's wait and see. Jab says, scary to think how bad we will be with injuries in midfield. Yeah, it is a little bit scary. As I said, the drop off in quality on Tuesday seemed very scary. Maybe that was because the likes of Tom Davies, John Philip Gbamin haven't had a lot of game time, haven't had a lot of first team, games, so their fitness isn't where it needs to be, or their match sharpness isn't where it needs to be. Maybe with a couple of more games under the belt, those two players will look brilliant, and we'll be sitting here going, actually, do you know what? We've got a really, we've got some really strong options in midfield. Yeah, we don't know, do we? Stephen says, fine, see, mate, no clicks is right, mate. Basic says, everything looks good to me. Nice one, my friend. Will says, Cam been impressive so far this season. Yes, he has. Will says, I feel Rafa really likes him. Yeah. Jab says, I think Rafa is just giving the younger players experience. He is, and I've got no issue with that. It's always a risk when you make so many changes to the side and you play so many players that haven't really had a lot of game time or match sharpness, or have a lot of match sharpness, because the risk is that they'll get overrun by a side that have had game time and match sharpness, regardless of the quality of the player. It's the fitness of the players. But Everton come away with the win, and that's all that matters. All that matters is that we come away with the win. Basic says, their corners were great all game, unlike ours. Yeah, Will says, if he had have given their goal offside, because he must have seen how bad of a decision he made at half time. Maybe. Seabley says, Cam, is the transfer vid going to be a live stream on a vid? It'll be a live stream, mate. Live stream. And it'll be sometime mid-afternoon, probably 1-2ish, something like that. So look out for that one. Basic says, standard the referee in this country is embarrassing. It is. Jab says, I think Keane could be a lot better than DCL. DCL's one-on-ones are scary bad, but I think he'll improve that. I don't know whether he'll be as good as DCL. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's a better all-round striker. Moise Keane may be a better finisher than Dominic Calvert-Lewin, but I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin's a much better all-round striker than Moise Keane. And AK Rich says, I would agree Keane could be boss. Don't worry about Tommy's boss. But we'll wait and see what happens with Moise Keane, won't we, over the next coming days. We're going to talk about Richarlison on the transfer video. Kylian Mbappe looks like he could move to Real Madrid in the next couple of weeks or so. He seems like he desperately wants to move to Real Madrid, and PSG have said that as long as they get the right offer, they won't stand in his way. So will that mean that PSG come back in for Moise Kean? Maybe it means they'll come back in for a certain other Everton player who I would be absolutely gutted if we sold, and I don't think I think it would be absolute criminal to sell at this point in the transfer window. But like I said, we'll cover all that in the transfer video later on today. So don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button, because if you hit the subscribe button, when we go live in a few hours, it'll come up and you'll be there straight away. Hit the little bell notification, you'll get a notification, and you'll be straight in and be able to get involved in the live comments with everybody. So if you could do that, that'd be great. And while you're over there, clicking buttons and that, leave a like on the stream. It only takes a second. Anyway, let's get into the second half. Like I said, Everton go in at half time, 1-1. And you're sort of thinking, right, just, again, go out. The ideal situation was that we wouldn't have to rely on Demarai Gray, we wouldn't have to rely on Luca Dean, we wouldn't have to bring on the first team players that obviously have been left out to give themselves, to allow them a little bit of a rest before the game on the weekend. But you could see as the second half went on, we were, again, the more likely team to score the second or the third of the game was Huddersfield, as they did, which was then obviously subsequently disallowed. But Everton were really struggling in that second half, really struggling to deal with the press of Huddersfield. We weren't really getting the ball into the forward line, which was worrying, because again, like I said, in the first half, the biggest positive was the likes of Moise Kean picking the ball up, holding it up well. Alex Iwobi's forward play. Again, Andros Townsend wasn't really in the game. Balls that were coming into the box weren't really great. Obviously scored the winning goal, which is all that matters, but again, wasn't massively in the game before that. And Huddersfield were seeing a lot of the ball. They were seeing a lot of possession in that second half, and they were getting forward on a lot of occasions, and Everton were really struggling to deal with that. Obviously, early on in the second half come the red card. Moise Kean was dragged back, I think, as he goes for a run, gets nudged. He ends up turning around, retaliating with a little bit of a nudge back, and he gets red carded. I'm still not sure why, to be honest with you. I think there might be a couple of images floating around Twitter that might suggest otherwise, but I'm pretty sure Everton will appeal it. Because from first look, it literally just seems like Moise Kean has been nudged himself. He's turned around, he's retaliated. And look, maybe he shouldn't retaliate. In this day and age, you probably shouldn't retaliate given the rules, but I think the referee is very quick to get that card out, very quick to give a red card. And for me, if you're going to give a red card to Moise Kean, you've got to give a red card to the Huddersfield player who initiated the trouble in the first place. You'd either yellow card them both, or you give 2 red cards out. The fact that Moise Kean got a red card and the Huddersfield lad got a yellow card, for me is quite silly. But again, like I said, it was early on in the second half, so you were sort of hoping, right, we maybe come under a bit of pressure in the opening first 10 or 15 minutes, or first 5 or 10 minutes, we'll deal with it, we'll settle the game down well, and then we'll go out and we'll go and kill the game off, score another couple of goals, and win the game. And then obviously the red card comes, and straight away, right, this is going to be a lot more difficult now. This is going to be a lot more difficult because Huddersfield already have got the advantage in regards to fitness. They've already got the advantage in regards to energy on the pitch. They were a lot quicker than Everton were. They were first to every ball. They were moving the ball forward. AK says he had his hand on his throat for a second. Chris says he grabbed him by the throat. Really daft. I haven't seen that. So if he did, then yeah, that's why he was given the red card. But from my knowledge and seeing the video, it looks like he just nudges, and maybe something else has happened that I haven't seen, and that will be deserving to the red card. But ultimately, anyway, red or not, Moise Kean gets sent off. He doesn't really argue about it, and Everton are then in a really difficult position, aren't we? Because then we're coming up against the side who have already looked a lot more lively than we have, and we've got to deal with that with 10 men. Now, that's when obviously, again, like I said, you start to see Huddersfield seeing a lot of the ball. It was a little bit of a shambles, wasn't it, for the rest of the second half from Everton. We weren't really creating many chances. We were giving the ball away far too easily. We weren't really doing anything whatsoever. Obviously, Rafa Benitez at this point had brought on Luca Dean. Again, ideally, we wouldn't have had to bring on Luca Dean, Andre Gomez and Demarai Gray. And I actually think all 3 substitutes changed the game to be honest. I think all three substitutes brought an air of professionalism, they brought an air of that Premier League quality. Luca Dean just showed the defence up, although Niles Nkunku had a good game, certainly moving forward defensively. You know, he always looks a little bit susceptible to making a mistake, and obviously when Luca Dean come on, we just looked an awful lot better, we looked an awful lot more comfortable defensively. Then, of course, like I said, you know, you had Andre Gomez, who to be fair to Andre Gomez, looked really, really good when he come on. His assist for Andros Townsend's goal is absolutely fantastic, to be fair to him. You know, I think it's easy to give Andre Gomez stick, and when he makes a mistake, we're all, you know, the first to sit there and criticise him and give him stick. But I actually thought he changed the game on Tuesday, so ultimately, in ways in which we'd give him stick when he affects the game in a negative way, we have to give him credit when he affects the game in a positive way. And like I said, Demarai Gray come on and brought that energy, brought that pace, brought that ability to knock the ball around the defence and run at Huddersfield and run at tired legs. And ultimately, I think that really, really worried the Huddersfield defence. Huddersfield did get a second goal, which was obviously subsequently disallowed for offside. It was, I think, in the last 10 or 15 minutes of the game. And you were sort of thinking, that is exactly what we don't need at this point. Corner comes in again. Once again, Everton can't deal with the corner, can't deal with an aerial threat. Huddersfield lad jumps, heads the ball into the back of the net, and the linesman gives offside. I think because there is an impeding attacker blocking the view of Asmir Begovic. Again, like I said, I've seen the replay. Little bit dubious. I think the linesman is making up for the previous mistake he'd made with Moise Keane's goal. But we take it. We take it because, you know, otherwise we'd have been 2-1 down with 10 minutes to go, and I think we'd have been in real trouble. Like I said, I think that disallowed goal really, really knocked the confidence of Huddersfield because they'd exerted so much to go and get the winner. They'd scored their second, and it had been disallowed. So I think that, again, there was a little bit of frustration there then from Huddersfield, and I think there was an air of, what else can we do here? You know, we're exerting so much. These have got 10 men. You know, we've had a goal disallowed. And I think Everton capitalised on that momentum switch. Like I said, you know, at this point, we've brought on Andre Gomez, we've brought on Luca Dean, we've brought on Demarai Gray. And obviously, late on in the game, 10 minutes to go, Everton get forward. Andre Gomez and Alex Iwobi. It's a really, really nice bit of play, the second goal. It's a really, really nice bit of play. If you haven't watched the replay, go back and watch it because the combination play is fantastic. It really, really is fantastic. Alex Iwobi and Andre Gomez, I think Luca Dean involved as well, playing it nice around each other. Iwobi flicks a good ball into Andre Gomez. Gomez, again, like I said, credit where credit's due, gets into the box, plays a lovely ball across the box, and Andros Townsend finishes it for what ultimately is the winner. And although it's been a difficult game, although it's not been the greatest game of football to watch, Everton have got the winner. Andros Townsend gets his, nearly said Andre Townsend then, Andros Townsend gets his first goal in an Everton shirt, and what a way to get it as well. The limbs in the away end were absolutely unbelievable. It was great to see an Everton progress into the third round of the Carabao Cup, where obviously we will play Queen's Park Rangers away from home. And that's it from that point on. Obviously, when we scored the second goal, we were able to see the game out. Demarai Gray had the chance towards the end of the game where he got forward in a good area and he had a shot. And ultimately, again, the keeper makes a good save, but it was unlucky. And then the game ends up finishing Everton or Huddersfield Town 1, Everton 2. Like I said, not the easiest game of football, not the most comfortable victory, and at times very, very worrying and and there was a lot of panic. I think on one hand you could say the drop off in quality between our first team and our second team is worryingly scary, but on another hand you could say a lot of these players, Niles Nkunku, Jared Branthwaite, John-Philippe Gbamin, Tom Davis, even Moise Keane, to an extent, John Joe Kenny, they all, again, Tom Davis, as I said, they haven't had a lot of game time so far this season, so for a lot of those players who started the other day, that was their first real game to go out, didn't they? Were playing against a very energetic Huddersfield side who were up for it and up for giving Everton a challenge, and I think had we have had a lot of our first teamers on the pitch, it would have been an easier afternoon. Again, as I said, one of the biggest positives to look at is the fact that we didn't have to rely on Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He got a full rest ahead of Saturday's game against Brighton. We didn't have to rely on Richarlison. He got a full rest as well. The likes of Jordan Pickford, Yerry Mina, Alan, Abdoulaye Doucouré, all were rested. Even Demarai Gray, who obviously come on for the last 5 or 10 minutes, but for the majority of the game was given a rest and was able to sort of, again, recuperate ahead of what is an important game on Saturday. Look, not the greatest game of football, as I said, not the greatest performance, but a win's a win. That's all that matters. With as many changes as we made in that game, All that matters is that we went out there, we got the win, and we're in the half of the next round, and that was the case. Obviously, we know who we've got now in the next round. Again, another difficult game, another difficult fixture. But it was good to see the likes of Jean-Philippe Gbamin, Tom Davis, Jared Branthwaite, Nelson Kunku, Moise Keane, obviously involved. And it was difficult, but we won. And that's all that matters. We won the game, and in these types of games, early round cup fixtures, when you're playing tough championship sides, you were really up for it. All that matters is that you win the game. And yeah, like I said, we left it late, but a really, really nice ball in from Andre Gomez and a good finish from Andros Townsend that was enough to seal the win for Everton. Let's get in the comments then before we finish up. Stephen says, hi Cam, don't know if you have seen the drone footage on School of Science TV. It shows work that has been done, a lot of work done, must see. I haven't, mate. I haven't, but I'll go and have a look at it. Is it on YouTube? I'll have a look at it. Sean Bear says, Cam, what do you make of Kenny? I think he's alright. I think he's a good footballer. I don't think he's good enough for Everton, personally. I think he done okay the other day. Didn't really put a foot wrong. I just don't think he's good enough for Everton, if I'm being honest with you. AK Rich says, the second goal is what Everton's mission, patient and efficient passing game. And Uden says, Patterson update. Well, like I said, we're going to talk about Patterson a little bit later on when we do the transfer and sort of transfer news and speculation video. Stream, sorry, not video. So join us at around about 1:30, 2 o'clock for that one. Anyway, until then, that's it for this live stream. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. Massive thanks to everybody for joining us once again. If you're new to the channel, as I said, don't forget to subscribe. We will be live again later on today, so if you do subscribe, you'll be informed as to when that live stream is starting, and you'll be able to get involved in the live comments and all of that good stuff. If you've enjoyed this one, please do hit that thumbs up button. Massive thanks to everybody in the live comments. As always, if you're watching this YouTube video, get your thoughts in the comment section down below, and we will get involved with as many of them as we possibly can. Big win for Everton. Not the prettiest game of football, not the prettiest win, but a win is all that matters, and a win is what we got. Massive thank you for watching. Stephen says yes on YouTube. I'll check that out, mate. Really appreciate that. Don't forget to join us again later on today. Ignore the scab on my face. I can't do much about it. Leave a like if you've enjoyed this one. Please do subscribe if you are new, and we will see you soon on the Mighty Blues. Cheers. See you after.